Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. I love you all. My name is miahtheking, and do you want to hear a funny little tidbit? Did you know your brain is constantly eating itself? It's called phagocytosis. Now then, thank you very much for clicking on this video. I really appreciate it, and I hope you stick around. Why would you? For the funny jokes and tidbits at the start of each video, or because I promise to help you figure out if you need a game in 10 minutes or less. So today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called Pixelshire, a pixelated farming sim game. Not a whole lot more to say about it, except to probably think of it like all the others, really. In this game, you start off as some guy or girl who you can customize, who, joy of joys, gets shipwrecked and has to join these randomly nice people and rebuild your life from scratch. The same thing we've seen a million times. Developed by Kappa Bits and published by Merge Games, released not in early access and selling for $20. But it's on sale right now for $17. So what even is this game anyway? Well, it's kind of just what I said earlier. It's just another standard, stereotypical farming sim game with pixelated graphics. Not much more to be said than that. So as always, let's go into the good and the bad, followed by my final thoughts, shall we? So up first is the positives, and the first positive was the sound design. Now, it's not all perfect, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about the bad first, just to get that out of the way, but the sound effects are subpar and quite frankly missing in a lot of areas. The one thing that stood out to me immediately was the watering can having zero sound effects, like at all, whether you're watering your plants or refilling it in the river. And it's not the only thing. So some sound just isn't there. But bringing it back to the positives, I really liked the music. It fit the theme perfectly and worked well enough for what it is, a filler. I really liked the music. It was just something to listen to whilst going about your daily chores while not sounding cringy or overbearing. And there was even voice acting in the opening cutscene, which I really liked. Something about war and how everything changed when a certain nation attacked. I don't know. But still, it was really surprising to hear a voice actor at all. I hoped for more throughout the game, but I was disappointed. Other than that cutscene, there just are no other voice actors. I guess that lady charged by the word or something and they couldn't afford more and they couldn't afford her more, so I don't know. But overall, the sound design was good enough that it's here in the positives. Up next for the positives is the gameplay. Now, the gameplay itself, separated from other components, is not bad. Let me restate that. Separated from other components in the gameplay itself isn't considered, in my opinion, actually bad, in theory. It's typical stuff like plowing the ground, placing seeds, watering them, chopping trees for wood, harvesting random plants, mining, and there's even some combat. Now, none of this is like super in-depth or innovative, but they did have a few things that are, if that makes any sense. Like the ability to dig your own trenches or build your own slopes or hills to literally change the environment around you. Now, that's actually kind of cool and an interesting gameplay component. But what's really interesting is the ability to dig your own water trench wherever you want, add fish eggs into said water trench, and then farm your own fish. Now, I really like the ability to affect and change your environment along with the rest of the farming sim tropes to add some more depth to the gameplay. But otherwise, everything here is pretty much what you'd expect, and since I can't find anything they did inherently wrong, that's why I'm adding it into the positives. And last but not least is the writing and overall plot. It doesn't have much of one, but the simple fact that the game had any story at all is nice because it does add depth to the world and tries to establish lore, so you're not just some random guy in some random world you don't care about. No, it actually allows you to kind of sort of get invested. As for the writing, it looks good enough to my eyes and didn't feel nonsensical or cringy, which is always nice. Sometimes in these games it can be a bit too happy-go-lucky or whatever and kind of ruins it, but here it wasn't bad, although they still weren't very original with a shipwrecked guy. You know, I've probably seen this a million times in games where you're shipwrecked and now you gotta be here, I guess. But so it's not very original, but at least they had something. But unfortunately, that's all I got to say about the positives. And now we got to go into the negatives. But you might be wondering what I think of the graphics. Now, they're not going to be in the pros or the cons. They're somewhere in the middle. So I'm just going to talk about that next. But before that, if you're feeling like this video is entertaining or at the very least informative, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and possibly leave me a like. I'm trying really hard to get to 5,000 subs. And while that might not seem like a lot, it's a first milestone for me that I'm really trying to reach and would really appreciate the support. Also, I do these videos to help people save money, but it doesn't work if I can't get to you first. So hit the bell notification button right down there so you'll be notified when I put out new stuff. It's the only way I can actually help you. All right. So the graphics, going to go through these real quick. They're mid, in my opinion. I mean, pixelated graphics aside, the fact is I've seen other pixelated games that have more attention to detail with better color combinations and contrast and differentials and artistic quality, but here it just kind of feels average even for pixel graphics. So they aren't good, but they aren't bad either. At this point, it comes down to personal preference if you like them or not. But okay, so now let's move on to the negatives, and I've got a lot to say here, but I'm going to do my best to sum it up, so I probably won't get to everything, but, you know, keep that in mind as we go forward, because I'm running out of time already. At first, I thought the price tag was decent, depending on depth and innovation or gameplay, but as I played, I started to realize I'm just not understanding that price tag. I just don't understand why $20. $15 at most, in my opinion. I feel like they overpriced it a bit. Stardew Valley is only $15 and is a far superior game. That's the reference I'm using, and yes, I know it's a bit tired and old to refer to a farming sim game to, compare them to Stardew Valley, but the simple fact is, Stardew Valley is a phenomenal game with lots of charm and comfort and only charges $15. If you're going to put yourself in direct competition with someone like this, sim, then you need to consider everything when listing your price. And this game just isn't as good as that, yet charges more money. So I don't like the price tag after all in the end. It's a bit too expensive in my opinion, simply because I can't find a single reason why it should be worth $20. Next up for the negatives is the user interface. I hate it, and I could go on a long rant about why I hate it, but I'm not going to do that. It's super convoluted, needlessly confusing, disorganized, and nonsensical. It's hard to navigate anything. It's hard to understand anything. It doesn't look great at all with different size texts and size images and weird placement of different things that you need. I hated going into my menus and through my inventory and shit because it was just a nightmare to try and navigate and understand it. It needs to be simple and charming for games like this, and it simply wasn't like that here. The next negative was the controls and overall mechanics. They're simply awful, awkward, and again, nonsensical. This button opens up this menu but doesn't close it. This button activates this but not that. This button does this thing but then doesn't do it for this thing. The game doesn't work on directional activation, meaning if you're looking one way and click your mouse, your character doesn't farm or harvest in that direction. No, he only harvests or mines in the direction your mouse is in, which means you have to manually lock your pointer onto every little tiny thing on this tiny, interface just to be able to farm that or harvest it. Adding to the fact the distance in which you can actually activate something is a bit too far off. You got to be like standing right on top of something to be able to do anything with it. And the only place that you could refill your watering can is this one river on the far western side of the village. Or how the only button to get you in out of any menu anywhere is escape. And I could keep going. Basically, the controls are just super wonky and awkward to use, which makes playing your game more frustrating than anything else. The use of fuel, activation of inventory, unable to do anything while inventory is open, even though it's just a tiny little bag down there. The tool menu wheel not locking open, not like toggling open. You have to hold it, then you need to click on the tool manually rather than just hovering over it. Having to do lots of different things in very different ways from each other, thus disallowing ease of play for the player. And hell, here's a weird thing that happened to me. I dug a trench for water, separate from any other bodies of water, like it's not connected to any other water source, so there should be no life in that water that I just created. I planted eggs of a specific fish inside this tiny water source I created, went back to fish in that water source later and caught every type of fish besides the one I planted. Explain how that works, game devs. So yeah, overall, it was just a bit off in almost every regard. There's no map either, by the way. No way to find your way around other than just remembering places. And the only way to find someone is to activate them on your weird little magical compass, and then follow that direction. And I felt this was a very odd decision, as well as making it harder to find your way around and making it a lot more tedious than it needed to be. Next up is the stability of the game. Now, I was getting stuck on all the litter scattered about over and over again because the devs overcrowded the terrain. They just shoved everything in there. There's sticks, rocks, trees, flowers, bullcrap, just everywhere. Shit scattered galore everywhere. So trying to go anywhere was super annoying as you're getting stuck on everything and anything. And then of course, there's the broken tutorial. My tutorial thought I was one step ahead while at the same time giving me dialogue that was 2 steps forward with an objective marker telling me something that was a step backwards. Despite me doing exactly what the game wanted, I still found myself misaligned with the tutorial and its dialogue and the instructions and having issues trying to progress because the game had me confused and the game had confused itself, which is definitely not a good sign. Needless to say, this made my learning experience a lot more frustrating and hard to come to terms with. And I'm not sure if this is broken or just missing, but I'm not even sure if there's a day-night cycle in this farming life sim game. I think there is, but it was really hard to tell. I literally did all my chores, which took like 10 to 15 minutes, plus I went around talking to people and finishing a quest. Then, after that, decided to sit and wait 15 more minutes to see if anything would change, and no. So either the day-night cycle is broken, or it's not in the game, or it just takes way too long. Like I said, I finished everything I had to do in that day, and the sun hadn't moved an inch, so I don't know what's going on there, but it felt wrong. Now, I could go further into details about all the complaints people are saying online, like how it's just not working on Steam Deck and whatnot, but I think you guys and girls out there probably get the picture. My final thoughts are this: it's not worth it, and here's why. Number one, it's just another run-of-the-mill farming sim game with pixelated graphics, but it doesn't have any charm or any aspect to the gameplay or mechanics to make it an enjoyable, relaxing experience for the player, which is pretty much the entire key to games like this. Number two, the game clearly has issues with gameplay and with its mechanics, which makes the game less enjoyable on a playable experience, and it's lacking in stability. Number three, it's a bit too expensive and frustrating to play on a whole while not bringing anything new or innovative to the table. I mean, in a world filled with games like these, you have to stand out or to be exceptional, and unfortunately, they didn't do either of those for this. This is just another run-of-the-mill game that's just going to get tossed under the rug. So that's pretty much a summed up way of saying I don't recommend the game. Not in its current state. Now perhaps if this was in early access and they could have made some changes to the stability, the mechanics and UI and controls and stuff, then maybe I would have said it could be worth it. But as it is right now, it just doesn't seem like it is to me. So no, I don't recommend. Pass on this one and maybe look for something else. I'm sorry it couldn't be a positive one. I was looking for a new one too. But that's all the time I got for today, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, with a special thanks to those of you who stuck around to the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.